Welcome to School Days, Help for Moms and Dads of School-Aged Kids. I'm Danita Bailey.
And I'm David Bailey. On today's show, we welcome two moms who both have experience in traditional education and are now veteran homeschoolers. They'll share their journey and other tips for parents who are considering homeschooling and for those who currently homeschool and maybe for those who are considering something different.
So 1.7 million children were homeschooled in 2016, according to the National Parent and Family Survey. And research shows that homeschooled children perform better on standardized tests than traditionally educated students. And a 2009 study showed that 67% of homeschoolers graduated from college, whereas between 51 to 59% of private and public school students completed all 4 years. So today, as you may have guessed, we're going to be talking about homeschooling, and we have two veteran homeschoolers that are going to share their experience and give us some tips and some resources and things that will be valuable to people who are homeschooling currently and considering homeschooling. But before we go any further, let me just say that it does take a village. If you hear a great parenting tip or a nugget of advice, share it with your parent friends. Facebook it, Instagram it, tweet it, link it in, and add the hashtag SchoolDazedShow and hashtag IamSchoolDazed. And also, we want you guys to be a part of the show. If you have any questions or if you just want to share about your own personal homeschool journey, we would love to hear from you. And you can call in and share that information at 214-431-5062. So we're just going to jump right in. We want to introduce to you, first of all, Lynzee Bolton. She has 15 years, or for 15 years, she's been immersed in education, and her passion for education was first passed down from her mother, who is a retired teacher of 31 years. After graduating from Baylor University, Lynzee spent 3 years teaching high school Spanish in Garland ISD here in Texas, and 1 year teaching high school Spanish in a private parochial school. Lynzee went on to receive a Master's of Arts degree in Christian education from Dallas Theological Seminary.
Woo woo.
She then worked with a faith-based nonprofit organization called Bridge Builders in Dallas, Texas. There she worked with at-risk and marginalized children and mothers, aiming to restore dignity, purpose, and hope into their lives. And soon after having children, Lynzee and her husband, Delario, began researching educational options for their 3 children and became intrigued with the homeschool model. So welcome, Lynzee.
Thank you.
All right, and I'm so glad to welcome Ramona Walden. She has a bachelor's in marketing from University of Houston. Hit it, babe.
Whoop, whoop.
There you go. All right, and master's of science in human resource management from Purdue University, and an MBA in finance from the University of Dallas. She left her business career and finance career after about 15 years ago, you said, and that began her journey of becoming a homeschool teacher. She calls herself the accidental educator, as she discovered she loved teaching while homeschooling her own children. She's also taught 7th graders at classical conversations. She's tutored math, whoop whoop, I'm doing a whoop whoop there, and taught business classes to teens. Ramona is currently an adjunct instructor in business at Dallas County Community College, and she likes math and other analytical subjects and enjoys baking, exercise, and travel, and just chit-chatting it up with her friends.
Yes, sir.
So we are so glad you were here, Ramona. And
Thank you.
Whenever I see math on someone's resume, I just light up. So
Oh, good.
yes.
Good.
All right.
So we first want to know, just how did you even decide to homeschool?
Well, I had an uncle and aunt in Houston who homeschooled their boys in the 70s. So they were trailblazers back then. And when I got married, my husband he had met them before we were married, and he was very intrigued by the idea. He didn't know anything about homeschooling, but he liked what he saw in my 3 cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, he asked me to research it, and my analytical skills, I did a lot of research. I love statistics like what you just quoted, and we just thought it would be the best place to start with our children. So we started not knowing we'd still be on the journey 15 years later.
Wow.
And for myself, it really came from kind of like Ramona, being able to watch a family homeschool. So just I was influenced by a mentor in my life. Her name is Julie and Sean, and just seeing the one-on-one, up close and personal way that she taught. And she was actually an educator too, who came home to educate her children. And so I was intrigued by that. And then I think just some of the disillusionment that I experienced as a teacher, and wanting to be able to customize more a personal education for my kids, and being able to teach them the things that I felt were more important. So, I mean, that's a loaded question, but that's in the short, that's kind of how we came to it.
And so I know you do the university model. Can you kind of explain what
I need
that
to
is?
say by caveat, I am not a traditional homeschool teacher or homeschool mom. We do the university model education, which first I just want to say, aren't we grateful that we live somewhere where we have options,
Yes,
where we have the
absolutely.
freedom to choose what's best for our child. And so I'm grateful for that. And so the university model is just kind of exactly what it sounds like. Our children go to a preparatory school, and so they're prepping them for college, for university. And so the high school goes on Monday, Wednesday. Middle school and high school go on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The elementary kids go on Tuesday and Thursdays. So for us, for our family, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are home days, where we are it's just like they would be in the classroom. We are doing a full set of math, phonics, all of that, but it just at home, and then they learn Tuesdays and Thursdays at school.
So, I'm sorry. So, Lynzee, does it reinforce what was taught in school, or is it like a separate curriculum?
So for us, the new material is introduced in class, and then it's reinforced at home.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I would say that we do a program also, but it's a 1 day a week program. And so you will find that most homeschoolers do use other resources.
Absolutely.
Classes, online, in person.
Co-ops.
But we've always done a once a week set of classes where my kids are in the classroom with other kids and other teachers. But in the younger years, it's still heavily guided by home. We still pick curriculum, we still set the schedule, and it's not determined by the once a week program. When they move to middle school and high school, the structure is a little more strict in terms of what's covered in class and the curriculum you use.
Gotcha.
So I think what we are basically saying is that, homeschool today looks very different. It's not Little House on the Prairie. I do love that show, but it doesn't look like that anymore. And I think with the advances of technology and being connected, that we have opportunities to.
Kids are in class and they have a PE teacher that
Right.
does physical ed. And so it was a good break in our homeschool day to just run over
Yeah.
to the Y, especially for my son who needed to move around, run over to the Y, and they actually offer it for free. It's just part of the
It's free?
membership. It's part of the membership.
Oh, that's great.
And Mansfield has the same type of program like that as well.
So you have academic programs and you have supplemental programs like PE and sports. My daughter and my son have played in a basketball league for several years on our side of town, as well as you have fine arts, places where they can be in group classes for music theater or art or things like that really need a group to help do it. So we laugh and say, we're homeschoolers, but we're never
at home. Right.
We are at home, but
Right.
you get the idea.
Well, let me ask you, with you guys both having an educational background, did you guys get any pushback about going a non-traditional route into homeschooling versus going into a public or a private school from like family or friends or anything?
I did not get any pushback from friends or family. Whether or not they were thinking it or not is a different story, but no one ever said anything to me. But I mean, there definitely is some intrigue and just a lot of questions, which is normal because this is non-traditional school.
Right.
And so, the only thing I've gotten is just, questions. Well, how does that work? And how are you qualified? And, well, what about if you don't know how to teach this subject? And so, just your typical questions that would come with any homeschooling parent.
Right.
And I did not have an educational or an experienced background in education. I'm a full-fledged business finance girl, loved my career, loved the jobs I had. But when kids came along, you make different decisions because you're not just thinking about your own career. So I don't know that I got pushback as much as I got questions, but because I had it in my family, a lot of my family members knew that my uncle and aunt had homeschooled in the 70s, and their boys turned out okay. In fact, 2 of them played college basketball. One of them was in the NCAA championships with his team in Tulsa for several years. And so we had examples in our family of people who were doing it. And so I don't know that I got pushback, except for people were intrigued about how I was going to do it and was I qualified. But I think because they knew me as a go-getter, that they figured, oh, she'll figure it out.
Yeah.
She'll learn what she
And you
needs to
do just
learn.
figure it out.
You figure it out year by year. So now people don't question it as much because it's more popular, and the results of academic success are there even more. And so I don't get a lot of questions anymore, except for how long do you think you're going to do that? I think the high school question is what I get more.
Yeah.
Really, you're doing high school, and I have to explain how it's a partnership. It's not just me anymore.
Right.
And my kids are older, so a lot of things they can do on their own. So I'm not
That's a beautiful
having
thing.
to sit right next to them and teach.
Right.
I will say one thing, that something that's slightly different with me and Lynzee. In the state of Texas, a homeschooler does their own transcripts and grades and diplomas, whereas she has the benefit of a school program that does that for her. So sometimes people may not question that as much because the school establishment has oversight over her kids and their grades and their transcripts and all of that stuff. As a homeschooler, even though we're in programs, that responsibility falls on me. I'm like the high school counselor. So I do transcripts. I work on college admission stuff with my children. I help them with SAT prep, all of those things. And I think that kind of is the difference in the technical definition.
Right.
Yeah. So what are some reasons to homeschool? Your own personal experiences, but what are some other reasons that parents might consider going into homeschooling?
Well, I think sometimes people land into homeschooling because they're having trouble. And that's always, if you're having trouble, you should just look at other options, not just homeschooling, but private schools, university model schools, if your child isn't doing what you desire them to do. But outside of that, if it's a choice up front, I think that some of the reasons we liked it was, one, in the early ages, we wanted to limit their negative socialization. And that word comes up all the time. And it can be positive, it can be negative. And so we wanted to limit their negative socialization by putting them in environments with like-minded kids and parents. You also are able to tailor it to your student in terms of if they can advance quickly in a subject, you can move quickly.
Right.
If they need to slow down, you can slow down. Then the quality of instruction, because you can do that in homeschooling.
Okay.
Awesome.
It's good to have that flexibility. We do have a caller. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Maisha Taylor, and I'm calling from Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Hi, Maisha. How are you doing?
Good, I'm well. How about you guys?
We're great. We're having a nice, a good talk about homeschooling. How would you like to contribute to the conversation?
Yeah.
Do you have a question, or?
Excuse me?
Do you have a question, or do you homeschool yourself?
Oh, no. I was just calling in to just offer some insight about my journey. I'm not sure if it's time. The time is right for it.
Yeah. So you do homeschool or you don't homeschool?
Yes. So
Oh, okay.
I do. I homeschool. I have 3 kiddos that I homeschool, and I kind of missed the rest of the conversation.
Okay. Well, tell us what your experience has been. What format do you use, and how it's been for you guys? Hello. Oh, I think we dropped our caller. Well, Maisha, if you can hear us, call back. All right. So, are there any, can you guys tell us, and I know it's different state by state, but are there any qualifications for a homeschool mom or dad?
And I don't know a lot of the laws, but in Texas, we are blessed in that there's not a lot of government oversight of Texans, but there are Texans who choose to homeschool. But there are other states that they have to send in their lesson plans. They have to send in grades, standardized testing, and so not every state is created equally. And so that's something that you would also want to research and look into, depending on what state that you live in. But you know, Texans, we like limited government here, so hands off, right? And so we're very fortunate in that regard, that we don't have to have a lot of those stipulations over us.
Okay.
I will say that that's a blessing, and it can also be create anxiety with some, because they want some structure. They want someone helping them. I think it's in California, they have people that'll come to your home and help you. And so in exchange, you're kind of under their authority.
Right.
And so in Texas, you don't have any oversight or authority, but some people may feel like that is a little more scary, because there aren't things that are set out. But to me, the proof is just, what will they do after high school? If they can get into the college they want to, or get into the trade school or an apprentice type thing, then you can feel like you've been successful. Nobody else is measuring that but you as the parent.
Okay.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this. So what traits would you say is critical to be an effective homeschool parent? 2 or 3 things you'd recommend if you're going to do this. Can someone who's disorganized and challenged do that? I mean, so what would you say are the top couple of things that are critical to really manage it and lead it well?
The first thing that I would say is you have to be willing to make the choice and have a made-up mind that you are going to be involved. And so it is it is going to take your time. It's going to be a sacrifice of many things. And we all sacrifice different things, anyway, just as parents.
Yeah.
But it is another little layer, another level, another step up. If you do not feel like you're in a season where you want to be, as involved in your children's education, then, this may not be the time for you, but it is very heavily parent involved. And so it's on you. So you have, that's regardless if you do a classical conversations model, a co-op model, a university model. You are the parent's as a parent, you're the child's number one teacher, influencer, and involved in their education. So it's going to require your time.
Absolutely.
And I will add to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Want to take the caller here real quick. So, hi, caller. What is your name, and how can we serve you and answer your questions today?
Hey, this is Mary Payton. How are you two?
Hi, Miss Mary.
Hey, I'm loving the show, but I have a quick question.
Okay.
Sure.
The young lady near the window talked about being the her children's counselor, and helping with ACT and SAT prep and stuff like that. How do colleges look at homeschooling when you're applying to when your child is applying to go to university?
Excellent question.
Well, actually, they're very favorable in this day and time, because they've seen the results of of how good the students are. we actually had a parent practicum about a year ago, and we had reps from colleges come in and just reassure the parents, because I knew it because I had been researching it, but we had a rep from Texas A&M and from Dallas Baptist and SAGU, because their admissions processes are different because of the size of the school and whether they're public or private. And they spoke to the different things they look for. A smaller school is going to look at service that a student does and an essay and some of the more qualitative things. A big school is going to probably just look at SAT, ACT scores to make some cuts.
Some more quantitative.
Right, some more quantitative, because they have so many students trying to get admitted. But the gentleman from Texas A&M said, actually, we don't always know that a student is homeschooled.
Right.
Because if there's a transcript and it just says Walden Classical Academy, they're not necessarily assuming that was a homeschool. They may think it's a private school. He said, so it's becoming less of a differentiation when they look at admissions. Now, they will also tell you that because they know mom or parent is responsible for the transcript, and they know the beauty of homeschooling is if you don't get it, you can just stay with it. You know, our school doesn't stop in May. We do school through the summer. And so we can keep going in a curriculum until my child gets an A. So technically their transcript could be all A's.
A little bit better.
Because we don't stop. We don't stop at the same point as the school schedule.
Right.
And they may do things in advance. They may finish a curriculum half a year. My daughter's done that. Finish it a half a year. She got an A, but that doesn't reflect that she did it in a half a year.
Right.
So the bigger schools tend to look at entrance tests, you know, SAT prep type stuff, and most parents who are homeschooling high schoolers, they are letting their kids take prep classes like any other student would. I'm actually about to teach an SAT prep class.
Wonderful.
For not just for my own kids, but for other kids, because they need that just like any other student would need it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know a lot of children who've been homeschooled, like, for example, the couple that I mentioned, Julie and Sean, their son is a freshman at Regents University, got a scholarship in speech and debate. And I mean, just incredible. He's an incredible kid. I have another friend whose family, they homeschooled all three of their children. Both of them were graduates from Texas A&M University, one from Dallas Baptist University. I mean, one of them is actually I don't know what he does. He's basically like a rocket scientist, you know. And so it's just, you know, I think we can be encouraged by those things, you know, and that they're not, you know, lacking anything academically. If, like Ramona said, they're advanced because they're getting that one-on-one, almost tutor style education, which, by the way, used to be the way that people were schooled, and, you know, kings and dignitaries even around the world today. They have private tutors, and that's how it was done a long time ago. It was one-on-one tutor style, which is the classical conversations model.
Right. Well, I will say that if you have a particular college interest and you have a homeschool student, just go talk to one of the admissions folks, and they will tell you what they expect, what you need for scholarships, because you know that's big too. So you just talk to the colleges that your student is most interested in, and they will tell you how they view homeschoolers. And it really, in my experience, it's not a big deal at all.
Wow.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Well,
No, the reason I had asked, my niece is in California, and she started homeschooling her kids this year, but they're in elementary.
Okay.
And she's doing a wonderful job. I'm extremely proud of her. And her kids are doing wonderful. And I'm just wondering, how is this going to you know, look as they grow up, because they're military and they transition everywhere.
Yes.
And so I was just wondering how that looked when they start applying for colleges and so on and so forth.
I would encourage your niece to reach out to different parents who have homeschooled that may be a few years ahead of her, so that she can begin compiling those things that she needs to have for her children. She's got some time, obviously, but it'll be here before you know it. So I would just encourage her to find other families who are homeschooling and who've gone ahead of her to get the help that she needs.
That's good. That's
Okay.
good. Well, thank you so much for
Well,
calling.
thank y'all
Mary.
for answering my question and taking my call. I'm just enjoying the show today.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling. You take care.
All right. Bye-bye, y'all.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to actually take a quick break. So Stay tuned. We have more information from Miss Ramona and Miss Lynzee, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Well, welcome back to School Days, Help for Moms and Kids. We are in progress with a conversation with Lynzee Bolton and Ramona Walden. They are veteran homeschoolers, and they're giving us a lot of great information to for people who are considering homeschooling and for people who are already homeschooling and maybe they want to do something different. So my question, first of all, is are there any resources that are available in the school district that you can take advantage of? Or are you just kind of on your own? How does that work?
Yes, that's something that is really good to know and to empower parents. Is if you see your child struggling with any kind of learning or speech things, that you, in most school districts, being a taxpayer and living in the city, you do have access to those services. And so if you need those services, and that would even be for, even if you were not going to homeschool and you had younger kids, but you were already seeing a need and wanted to get some testing done, you can take advantage of those services by contacting the school district and the special education department. My son took speech for a full year, and just they were so open, so welcoming, and it really helped him. And, and that's a blessing, because those kinds of services a lot of times are not covered on insurance, and they're very expensive when they're outsourced. And so you have great educators who want to help kids in their communities. So if you need those services, look into your school district. Not all school districts will, but you may even be able to do something with some surrounding school districts in your city. And also, something that a lot of people don't know is that you can take advantage of different extracurricular classes. Like Ramona was saying, they did the Y PE at the Y, but you could also contact your school district and see if your child could do PE at the elementary school or middle school. So
yeah, think about Tim
That's
Tebow.
interesting.
He did football in a public school, even though he was homeschooled. So some
I
districts,
didn't know that.
some districts, he's getting married, by the way.
he is.
Yeah, I
Some
heard.
school districts will allow you to participate in sports and band and things
Absolutely.
like that. So you have to just check with the district where you are to see. When I researched that with the state of Texas on their website, I think it just says it's governed by the district.
Right.
It's not a statewide.
But hey, ask, be empowered.
Yeah.
You have not because you ask not. And maybe your student would be the first one, but you definitely, go in there with boldness and confidence and ask for the services that you may potentially need.
Yeah, and that's a great way to, just meet other kids.
Absolutely.
And socialize a little bit. And so you were thinking about PE like during the school day, so they would go into that. I love
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what was the way that you guys chose your curriculum? Are there different resources that
Well, let
you
me
can
just mention,
recommend?
too, just kind of a segue to that. In the homeschool world, there are homeschool conferences and book fairs. When you talked about using school services, in the DFW area, there on a given year, there may be 2 or 3 conventions.
Yes.
And so you
One's
can
coming
go,
up.
right, you can go there. There's always one in Arlington, but the ones in Fort Worth and Dallas sometimes are on rotation. But you can go, you can register, you can do workshops, you can access resources and services there, in addition to all of the curriculum that you can look at and make choices about your curriculum. There are people there who do a lot of other services as well,
Right.
in terms of assisting homeschoolers, and they do workshops and speeches.
You can
and
pick up free
free
things.
materials and that kind of thing. So if anybody's interested, I would strongly encourage that they pay the small fee and go to a book fair. You can actually volunteer sometimes and get your fee waived.
Okay.
But go to a book fair and just see the wealth of information is there. In fact, it can sometimes be overwhelming. I tell people on the first day, do not take your wallet, because
That's good.
it's
Go and
it's
look
so
first.
much. You need to
Right.
just look, and you'll get excited, and you'll buy all this stuff that you can never get to, never have time for. But it
Guilty.
is worth
done
going to talk to the people and not so much to go buy things. So,
If there's so many resources, how do you know what's going to work for you?
well, and that is the mind-boggling question, which
Yeah.
I think in Lynzee's case, being part of university model, that's laid out
Right.
as part of the school. She can supplement, obviously,
Which is good and bad.
do other things. But as a homeschooler, especially if you're not in a particular program that's academic, you're tasked with picking that. And so a book fair is where you can go to see and touch and talk to people who wrote the curriculum.
Right.
My suggestion is always, when somebody who's a newcomer, is to just get a kit. Get something that's all inclusive,
Okay.
that covers every subject for the grade. There are several out there. They're used by private schools that you can just buy a kit. That's what I kind of started with. And then I started trading things. Like, I didn't like the math. I wanted a more kinesthetic math for my son, who was
Wanted to touch.
always
and
moving around,
manipulate.
like most kids. And so we found a math curriculum that had manipulatives that looked like Legos.
Yes.
And that worked better
Sold.
for him. Then we traded out something else. And then we started Classical Conversations that traded out some things. But if you start with a kit, sometimes you feel a little bit more safe that your choice is going to be a good one. Believe me, 80% of what's in those curriculums are the same. You know, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing
right.
does not change. So in an elementary curriculum, that's what you're going to find. But people still get anxious that they're picking the perfect thing, and there's really not one that's perfect.
And I would just say, as you know, homeschoolers love talking about curriculum. That's one of our favorite things to talk about. But I would just say, don't also get too overwhelmed and spend too much time obsessing over the curriculum. To remember that at the heart of homeschooling is the heart, and that it's not so much about the curriculum. Yes, we want to pick the best curriculum that is suitable for your child, but really homeschooling is about discipleship. Homeschooling is about building relationship. And so no matter what that curriculum is, it's about the personal touch. It's about the time being spent with your child.
Right.
And so they're not going to remember if you used a Becca or if you used Sunlight. But what they will remember is sitting across the table from their parent and building that relationship over time. And so we can get so lost in the curriculum, and I love talking about curriculum in books, but really we can't forget that the first lesson is love.
Yeah.
Right, and you asked a question earlier about what it takes to homeschool. I want to just reiterate that you may not like your kids so much when you start homeschooling.
Why is that?
Or they might not like you.
They may not like you.
You love your
Especially-
children all the time.
I'm not talking about love. I'm talking about like.
That's different,
Like and
right?
love are
Oh,
different.
yeah.
That's true.
But you want to grow into enjoying being with your kids.
Absolutely.
So you don't want a curriculum to strap
It's too
you
rigorous.
from that, because the goal is learning with your student and to
giving
have
them
that
a love for
relationship
learning.
and give them a love for learning. And so as a parent, you need to be one who wants to spend time with your kids.
Well-
if you don't want to spend time with your kids, homeschooling may not be for you because you
Right.
are with them.
And be honest about it.
Yeah, and be honest. And
Yeah.
it's not something you may walk in the door doing. I mean, I can't say I was patient the first day. People always say, I'm not patient enough to homeschool. Well, I wasn't
None of us
either.
are.
That's a discipleship. That's a sanctification process that God takes you through, and you become more patient. You become more long-suffering, but you don't typically walk in the door being ultra patient with your kids.
Right.
The other thing that I would say you need to be a homeschool parent is a love for learning, because you don't know how to teach everything that you're tasked with teaching, but you need to love learning enough to learn it, to teach it. In fact, when I first started teaching my kids Latin, my son, I think, was second grade, and I wanted to start them in Latin early. I didn't know how to teach Latin. So I got the book, I got the teacher book, I got the video, and the day before I taught them, I studied the lesson and I imparted what I could to them.
Right.
And I remember my son was like, Mom, you're so smart.
Aw.
And I was like, thank
No.
you.
Right.
I just left it.
Yes, I am.
I didn't even dispute it.
And David, you
But-
know, as an educator, you only have to be one day ahead of your kids, you know,
Right.
just
Right.
one lesson
Right.
ahead of the kids, you know,
Right.
but
Right.
isn't
Right.
that fun though? That's the fun part. And I think that's the
Right.
beauty of homeschooling is you're learning together.
Right, you're learning together. And you're teaching them how to learn, not just what to learn.
Right. It's not just information.
They see you modeling how I study, and we learn a lot of this through the classical model that we use, because there's different teaching philosophies
Right.
that are broader buckets than curriculum. So
Okay.
a teaching philosophy, we use the classical method, but they know the first thing I do is learn the vocabulary. Then the next thing I do is look at cause and effect or put the pieces together, and then I can teach it.
Yeah, great. This is so intriguing to me. This is a whole new world. I know for both of us. So what is a typical day like? So you get up, and then what?
You get up when
Or
you
is
want
there
to.
a typical day? Oh,
Well,
that's kind of nice.
sometimes you have a set schedule. That's the night before. Somewhat determines what time
So
you
it's
get
like,
up.
do you plan out the day in advance, or is this kind of
it's
go with the
different.
flow? Or
It's different with different homeschoolers.
Sure.
So mom or whoever the teacher is, it could be dad, their personality comes to bear.
Sure.
I'm a little more orderly. I'm a planner.
She's a finance person.
I'm a finance person. And I got to make sure, everything is profit and loss.
I'm a
here.
lay around and read books all
Yeah,
day kind of
yeah.
teacher.
And so we don't have a set schedule in terms of a start time, but we do have a routine.
Okay.
So we do this before this, before this, before this, before this. And lunch is in there, and basketball practice is in there at the end. But that's part of the flexibility on the days that we don't go to the program. When we go to the program, it starts at 9. We have to be there at
Right.
9, and they have a schedule. But on the days we're not there, then we have a routine. And I've called school holidays on days that I just couldn't
Couldn't do it.
get it together.
Mama was on the struggle bus that
Yeah,
day.
so I was like, okay, kids,
So-
today is a Walden
Struggle bus
classical
holiday.
homeschool holiday, impromptu. we're just keep your PJs on, you know, and have breakfast. But on a typical day, I'm following a routine. I'm not following a schedule per se.
Yeah.
As the kids get older, you do have to follow a schedule a little bit more because of their extracurricular things that they have to get to. They have to leave at 3:30 to get to basketball.
Right.
All right. Well, we have another call. All right, let's take this call.
Hi, caller. Hi, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from? Hello?
Say, first of all, great conversation so far. I am a homeschooler, so I just wanted to call in and share. I really like everything that you all have been discussing. It all hits home for me, especially one of the young ladies said something about negative socialization.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually one of the reasons I started homeschooling my son, because I didn't want his spirit to be squashed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think the question I get the most is about his socialization, but I didn't start homeschooling him until after 5th grade, because I was just done with the public school, and it was scary. And I will say I'm a community college professor.
Oh, awesome.
And it was
Good.
scary for me.
I am too. Where do you teach? Where do you teach?
I teach child development and social psychology. So
Where
I
where
need
do you
to, I need
teach?
to take your class.
Where do you teach? Which college?
I'm at American River College up here in Sacramento.
Oh, you're in
okay.
another state. Okay, I'm at
Awesome.
Dallas County. Okay, good. Well, glad to hear about that socialization. I will say that the homeschool environment is a lot better. You know, obviously, when you go into group classes, you're interacting with people, but most of the time they're like-minded. Probably at University Model School, a lot of times they're like-minded.
Like-minded
but-
families.
But, you know, people are sinners, so we still have some negative socialization. I won't say
Absolutely.
that we're negative socialization free,
Right.
but it is manageable, especially with parents being around. And it's used for discipleship, I think. When some of those things come up, we use them to teach our kids about relationships and conflict and, you know, guarding what you see or what you
Right.
hear or what somebody said. So we still use them as teachable moments. And we actually, as my kids have gotten older, I want them to be in more environments that are non-homeschoolers. My son is in a mentoring program right now, and it's not, I mean, I think there are 2 homeschoolers out of 40 boys.
Yeah.
I want him in those environments now so we can test his thoughts
Maturity.
up against, you know, the real world before he's actually out there by
Right.
himself. So
Right.
it's good,
Yeah.
I think, again, in the younger years to protect and to teach and get them a firm foundation on your belief systems. But as they get older, you want to migrate them in some ways back to the regular environment so that they can learn to navigate.
Yeah.
And I've heard it
Oh,
said,
yeah.
I've heard it said
Yeah.
too that you know, that's something that a lot of naysayers will say about homeschooling is, you know, oh well, there's socialization, but especially, you know, like for your son who is a young still a young child, is, you know, do we really want our children to be mentored or discipled by their peers? And, you know, I don't personally think that that is the best way. You know, I think that most children thrive and do really well when they have mentors, when they have older adults or older people that they can look up to who really care about them. And that was actually one of the reasons why we chose to do homeschooling, because I was a public school educator and I was seeing the struggle of so many children. I know you guys recently had a show on bullying, you know, and so
Right.
it's a real concern out there. And of course, you know, we don't want to shelter our children, you know, and keep them from the real world. So Ramona is doing a service to her children by saying, we're going to put you and see and test your character and test the strength of your character and see where we need to develop you more. And that's what I mean by being, you know, that is the heart of homeschooling is really the character training, and yes, all the other stuff is important as well, but we need to do more work with building the character and the morals of our children.
Right.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
one of the reasons why we chose the Classical Conversations program once a week is not just because of the kids, but the parents. My kids bump up against other like-minded parents and siblings, and so you get this child is able to talk to a student that's 3 years older because it's somebody's brother or somebody's
Right.
sister. So you get kind of the whole family as part of your little network of classes, not just the kids they're
One-
in class with.
Right, which
Yeah.
that's also how school used to be. It used to be the one
One-room
room
schoolhouse.
schoolhouse, where
Right.
where
That's true.
it was multi-generational, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So, what other questions or insights do you would you like to share?
Caller.
Sorry, caller.
I was just going to. I was waiting for everyone because it's awesome information. But I'm also doing the university model. We do our homeschooling through K-12. And it's been a really great experience. I think I was lucky to have been unemployed when he began. So I was, on my laptop as he was on his laptop, and we would go through stuff together that first semester. Because by the end of that semester, I ended up with 2 jobs.
Wow.
So,
You're busy.
so yeah, but so it was just interesting to watch him, kind of struggle at first, but it was okay because the struggle wasn't in front of other kids in a classroom where he may have been bullied, and he actually was bullied before. So, and he doesn't struggle in school, and he doesn't need to pay the type of attention that I think educators think kids are paying attention if their eyes are forward. Like they can totally be somewhere else and their eyes are
yeah.
forward.
Sure.
Absolutely.
That's
So,
awesome.
I just
So he's an out of the box
so
kid.
stuff like that, I wanted to end. I wanted him to be able to get up when he wanted to get up. I wanted him to be able to do his work when he wanted to do his work, even though it's on his calendar what he needs to do every day. He gets to wake up and just be cool with whatever time of the day he does his stuff.
I will say that is the beauty
So,
of doing the university model is you're still held accountable to what you need to get done,
Right.
but they still can be kids.
Right.
Right.
And I will say that my son, and he's going to kill me because I keep using him as an example, but he's my firstborn, so I learned to be a mom through him. But I remember doing spelling with him, and he was rolling on the floor. But as long as he recited the words and he did them correctly, I didn't care if he was sitting in a chair at a desk with a pencil in his
Exactly.
hand.
Right.
And so we would just move through the house and do schoolwork, kind of, sort of, because he was younger and he was a boy and he would rather be out building forts
Absolutely.
than sitting at a
That's
desk.
my middle son.
And
That's
so
my middle son,
you
too.
have that flexibility.
Yeah.
We had some subjects like penmanship where he was expected to sit because
Absolutely.
the discipline of sitting and doing good
Being
work
still.
was a character trait we wanted to develop. But we didn't sit the whole day.
Right.
No, you can't.
I can't sit a whole day.
I can't either.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's and so I would just say also to other listeners who, if their children are having problems in the traditional classroom in traditional schools, and maybe you have an out of the box child who doesn't learn a certain way. That is one of the disadvantages, I think, of just traditional schooling is that a lot of the teaching is geared towards one or two type of learners or type of children, and so sometimes those kids will look like problem kids, or as our caller would say, will be bullied because of their learning style or different, and so if you're feeling like your child needs that one-on-one attention and be pulled away from that environment, homeschooling is a really good option to look into so that you can just encourage your child to flourish the way that they were designed.
Yeah.
And I will say that she mentioned K-12. I just wanted to say that we have friends, and I know of people who they do an online public school.
Absolutely.
So it is the traditional public school curriculum. It's just in an online version.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Oh.
And so if someone's
That's
thinking
important.
of pulling their student out of school and they want some of their work to look similarly to what they're accustomed to, they just want them out of that social environment.
Right.
Then
Right.
starting with an online public school, or there's even online private schools, could be an option to get going. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say is I did ask my son if he wants to, because he'll be a freshman in the fall. So I asked him if he wanted to go to public school for high school. And we were actually walking through a high school at the time. And he looked around at all the students, and he was like, I don't know. So we might end up still doing it, for high school. But, I think he's enjoying it. He appreciates, that he can go as fast as he wants, and he doesn't have to wait for anyone else. And anyone who's out there, feeling afraid or whatever, just know that a community college professor was afraid too. You'll be okay.
Absolutely.
And let me just say this, that I had a mom come to me. She was thinking of homeschooling, and she at the end of our conversation, she said, well, what if it doesn't work? And I said, well, you just change.
That's right.
You just do something different. You're not locked into homeschooling for the rest of their lives.
And most homeschoolers will say, we take it one year at a time.
If it's not going well, you can change.
Yeah.
And in most states, there's not a lot you have to do to make that change.
All right.
Well, thank you, caller, for calling in and being
you.
a part of our conversation. And you have a great day.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Ramona, you just said something that made me think about a question I had for you guys. How do you know what the requirements for your state are? So you make sure that your child is, if they're going on to college, they have everything that they need and you're doing it right,
I would say, again, I'm still doing elementary age, and I do have the university model that's helping me get to where we need to be. But for a more traditional homeschooler, I would say the first thing you can do is you can look at the state's requirements, and there is in Texas, is it the TEKS now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
Yes.
look at the objectives that they want each grade level to learn, and make sure that you're on track. It's a good guideline. And then most school districts have what's called a scope and sequence of what the scope and sequence is broad, though. It doesn't mean that you have to, that your first grader has to know how to do this, but it's a good measuring tool.
I will say for the high school level, there is, at least in Texas, specific requirements. So you can go out to the website, and for a ninth grader, it will tell you they need to take biology with a lab, English, writing.
Right.
It'll tell you what courses that you need and the types of electives that you need to have for the different graduation requirements. In Texas,
Right.
I think there are 3 levels. Kind of a basic one, and then a couple of ones that are more distinguished with honors. And so you can go there for high school to get specifics on what courses your student needs to be taking to technically get a diploma in the state of Texas. And their transcript for graduation needs to reflect that, or
Right.
college is not, going to feel like they've graduated.
Right.
Right. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time.
Wow, that was fast.
Man, we had so many more questions for you. We might have to have you guys back on. But thank you guys so much for joining us and giving us so much valuable information.
Thank you.
And we always want to let you guys know what's going on at Noggin every week. And so, David, what's going on with Noggin Educational Coaching?
Okay, well, as I've been talking about for the past few weeks, the webcast called Slipping 5 Steps That Every Family Must Make to Avoid an Academic Slip. It's an on-demand webcast. If you want to find out more about it, just reach out to us at info@schooldayshow.com, and we can send it to you directly. It has a lot of great resources as far as how to support your child from home. Not in the homeschool format, but live it is applicable as well for you homeschool parents out there as well. Also, on the website for Noggin Educational Coaching, we have a free daily study checklist that you can pull up, and you go right to our website, which is Noggin, it's with 2 G's, noggineducation.com, and you can download the checklist so that when your child comes home, you know exactly what they need to do step by step to make sure they get their work done for the evening.
And so what's on next week's show?
All right, so on next week's show, we welcome Texas Christian University, aka TCU, character coach for the fellowship from the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and Garrett Wallow. So
It's a TCU linebacker.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this one is okay. So you
It's-
want to every kid wants to get that big time scholarship. Okay, well you're gonna find out what it's like to be a student athlete at a big time major D1 program and what it takes to prepare in high school, and then what to expect when you get to college as well, managing your studies and managing the rigors of the expectations from being a big time athlete.
Right, and both of these guys were athletes when they were in not undergraduate, but when they were in high school and middle school, I would imagine. So they're going to talk about just how to keep up with that. It can sometimes be a little overwhelming as parents when you're taking your kids to all these different things, and they also have to get good grades, and so they're just going to discuss how to do that. Yeah. So, and Lynzee, do you know Garrett?
I do know Garrett.
How do you know Garrett, Lynzee?
He's a great kid. He's a friend of my sister-in-law's, and they met at Texas Christian University. He's from New Orleans. He's a great guy, so that'll be a good show.
Okay. So we're looking forward to that. And as always, head to our website, schooldayshow.com, for more information. And remember, if you ever miss a show, you don't have to miss the show. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and Stitcher. And as always, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And that's at Noggin Foundation, Noggin. And last of all, we want to say that we are parenting by grace. We depend on God to give us the wisdom and the strength we need to raise our kids into flourishing adults. And if you'd like to know more about that, please email me at info@schooldaysedshow.com. Have a great week.